John 1, 1-38. Now before the feast of the Passover, when he knew that his hour had come to depart out of this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. During supper, when the devil had already put it into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going back to God, rose from supper. He laid aside his outer garments, and taking a towel, tied it around his waist. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet, to wipe them with a towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said, "Lord, do you wash my feet?" Jesus answered him, "What I am doing you do not understand now, but afterward you will understand." Peter said, "You shall never wash my feet." Jesus answered him, "If I do not wash you, you have no share in me." Simon Peter said, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." Jesus said to him, "The one who is bathed does not need to wash except for his feet, but is completely clean. And you are clean, but not every one of you." For he knew who was to betray him. That was why he said, "Not all of you are clean." When he had washed their feet and put on his outer garment and resumed his place, he said to them, "Do you understand what I have done for you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you should do just as I have done to you. Truly, truly, I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. If you know these things, blessed are you who do them. I am not speaking of all of you. I know whom I have chosen, but the scripture will be fulfilled. He who ate my bread, this is the scripture, he who ate my bread has lifted up his heel against me. I am telling you this now before it takes place, that when it does take place, you may believe that I am he. Truly, truly, I say to you, whoever receives the one I send receives me, and whoever receives me receives the one who sent me." After saying these things, Jesus, troubled in his spirit, and testified, "Truly, truly, I say to you, one of you will betray me." The disciples looked at one another and assured one of the disciples whom Jesus loved. One of the disciples whom Jesus loved was reclining at table at Jesus' side. So Simon Peter motioned to him to ask Jesus if he was speaking. So the disciple, leaning back against Jesus, said to him, "Lord, who is it?" Jesus answered, "It is he to whom I will give this morsel of bread when I have dipped it." So when he had dipped the morsel, he gave it to Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. Then after he had taken the morsel, Satan entered into him. Jesus said to him, "What you are going to do quickly." Now, no one at the table knew why he said this to him. Some thought that because Judas had the money bag, Jesus was telling him, "Buy what we need for the feast," or that he should give something to the poor. So after receiving the morsel of bread, he immediately went out, and it was night. When Jesus, this is 35, 38, when he had gone out, Jesus said, "Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself and glorify him at once. Little children, yet a little while I am with you. You will seek me, and just as I said to the Jews, so I now also say to you, where I am going, you cannot come. A new commandment I give you, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You also are to love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. Simon Peter said to him, Lord, where are you going? Jesus answered him, where I am going, you cannot follow me now, but you will follow afterward. Peter said to him, Lord, why can I not follow you now? I will lay down my life for you. Jesus answered, will you lay down your life for me? Truly, truly, I say to you, the rooster will not crow until you have denied me 3 times. So that's the passage. We're going to go through these questions. The first question says this: why do you think Peter resisted Jesus washing his feet? Yes.
I think he understood, maybe not necessarily that Jesus was Christ, but he definitely understood that Jesus was like above him, and he understood that because Jesus was above him, Jesus should not be washing. Not a slave for a second.
So that was not his task to do. Emily, did you have anything? And it would have been shocking. We'll talk about that. It would have been very shocking. Yes.
Christ.
So if he's the Christ, this is the last thing. Yeah, last thing he would do.
Like even if he a rabbi,
Yeah. You're all right. You're all on the right track on that. And again, we'll talk more about it as we walk through. What attitude did he show in his resistance? So we're still talking about Peter here. So he says, you'll never wash my feet, right? What attitude does he have? I'm not sure I agree with you. Stubbornness, that's a good one for Peter. Yeah, I think that's for sure. What were you going to say? Anybody else? The curriculum says he seems to have been pride disguised as humility. I don't think that's true. I mean, I don't know if you've ever had a situation where you've been shocked about something, and sometimes you're just speechless. Like you remember the video of me meeting Mabel for the first time, right? And I didn't realize it was Mabel, and I'm frozen like this for a while, and then I say, "This is Mabel," like in disbelief. So I think it's hard to assign the attitude of Peter. We will talk more about it, but I think this is possibly a little bit harsh. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to dog Peter, but I don't know that this is one of them. So what attitude did he take what attitude did it take for Peter to yield and allow his teacher and master to continue?
I don't know kind of his attitude. I just kind of like Jesus said that if he didn't also see Peter could not participate in dinner. So he was just kind of like, well, I guess.
Well, yeah, and I think it was more than not just participating. He said you have no part of me.
Yeah.
So you can't be my followers. And that would have been shocking. No.
It's like, I'll do it.
Don't do that, yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think trust is a good word. I think especially if there was some pride in the you'll never wash my feet. And yeah, there's both of those would be good. Why do you think Jesus would have permitted an unbeliever to infiltrate his inner circle of disciples?
Well, kind of shows God's sovereignty. Has a plan. Also, like, I really love the good
Yeah, and he hung out with a lot of people that other people would hang out with. Yes.
I mean, he never would have made it. He wouldn't have made it to the cross and sacrificed himself without just
Yeah, he knew, as it tells us here, from the beginning that Judas was the one. And he knew that that was God's plan from the beginning. Now, at the same time, you need to understand that every person has free will, right? Even Judas had free will. But there's this idea of foreknowledge, knowing beforehand what's going to happen. Yes.
I just kind of said that, like, God knows, and He knows His plan, and like humans aren't going to deceive Him, but we can definitely deceive each other. So, definitely a big Christian plan. Just goes to show, like, even within Jesus' own mind, there is a faker. So, like, don't be surprised when there's fakers in your room, too.
Yeah, that can happen. Yes.
Yes, we said like why was like if you're letting out believers, like what's the point? Like they're not sharing the gospel, you're not letting it out. But moving other people.
That's what Jesus did, right? And that's what he told us to do as well. Yes, sir.
why didn't he tell Judas to do
Because I think he knew he was going to do that, and then he adds the word quickly. He's like saying, just get it over with. Go do what you're going to do. He knows. He knows that Judas is going to leave to betray Jesus. That's what he's going to do. Yes.
And you think that Judas knew that he was like fulfilling prophecy when he did that, or not?
I don't know if I can answer that. It's prophesied in the Old Testament. And there are a lot of prophecies of Messiah in the Old Testament. Some concerning Messiah. Some the Jews knew were prophecies of Messiah, like that the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem. Everyone knew that, and that's why the Jewish leaders said, "We know where he's from. He can't be Messiah because he's from Nazareth. He's not from Bethlehem." But there are others in there. There are hundreds of them, right? That people look back and went, "Oh wait, that was prophecy." And so this made the whole 30 pieces of silver thing might have been one of those. So Jesus knew what he was about to do, but and I think he realized, oh, he knows. And that one of my kids, I can't remember which one it was, that when he was in trouble, that he thought that if he couldn't see me, that I couldn't see him. So he'd like hide, so that I wouldn't know where he was. I wouldn't find him. And because he knew I knew what he'd done, and Judas knew, and so he got out of it. I love that it says, and it was nice. We'll talk about that too. I thought I saw another. Go right here in front of me. Sorry, go.
Yeah, I don't remember. Whatever. If I remember, I'll raise my hand. Yeah.
Well, if you remember, just we'll stop everything. So what we're talking about is why permitted is
So you know how back then the Jews would say he can't be Messiah because they thought he was born in Nazareth.
Mhm.
Like now we know he was born in Bethlehem. So why did Jews now not look at the New Testament, or maybe not the New Testament, but other writings from that time that talk about Jesus? Why don't they why don't they look at it and compare the prophecies from the Old Testament to what Jesus fulfilled, and then just kind of by process of elimination realize that he is the
So some do. They're called Messianic Jews,
right?
and there's a Messianic, one Messianic Jewish uh, congregation. In fact, they worshipped at our former church with us. Some, because they've been taught their whole life that it can't be Jesus, reinterpret those prophecies. Say, well, that's not a prophecy of Messiah, that's a prophecy of something else. Well, that means something else. So and then some, I think, just don't know. Like, they just don't. A lot of Jews are cultural Jews. Like, we would say, I'm an American, and that doesn't really attach any religious, but a lot of Jews are cultural Jews. Like, their Judaism is more their ethnicity than it is
More
a
tradition.
real belief in God. Yeah, and you're a Jew if your mother is Jewish, not based on anything you've done. So you've got everything from Hasidic Jews that are very, very conservative, and they're the ones you see, but we're to people who are just like, I'm agnostic. Okay. So that's all of that was why Jesus would permit an unbeliever to infiltrate his inner circle. I don't know if anyone said this, but he was there to fulfill Scripture. That was his purpose, right? And Jesus knew that he was the betrayer, but Jesus had to be betrayed. And it would make the most sense that someone in his inner circle would do that because they would know where Jesus is. That was a pretty much an open secret when he spent nights on the Mount of Olives, but it was Judas who said he'll be there and arrested. And the events seem to show plainly that Judas was the betrayer. If you were one of the disciples, what might you think that he was leaving to take care of the Greeks? What you might, if you were one of the disciples, what might have made you think that he was leaving to take care of the Greeks? Yes. He had the money back. So it would make sense that they didn't know that Jesus was going to betray him. So, oh yeah, he's going to get what we need for the Passover. Yes.
The right hand is bread.
Yeah, well, very like hands over to Judas, mysteriously says, "Get it over with," and then it's like,
And then Judas
he
ups and
leaves,
leaves.
and then it's night, and it's like,
The way I read it, I hear what you're saying. The way that I read it is that John was the only one. John leaned over and said, and then he said, and John made him. John would have, but I don't think everyone.
Weren't the other ones so busy freaking out that someone was going to betray Jesus? That's why I got told when I asked that question.
Well, that could be true. And they start, and you know how when you start talking to your friend and you're not listening to your teacher, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what she just said. So that could happen too. Yes.
Oh, I kind of have a random question. But you know how there are people now that will talk about how they always talk about this passage.
Like,
Yeah, they always use the passage.
is that?
Yes, but they use the passage and the disciple that, like the one that says, and the disciple that Jesus loved was reclining against his breast, and it just means they were like sitting on a couch together.
Anyone here like Greek descent or like Middle Eastern descent? Anybody?
Yeah.
Y'all hugging each other all the time. Like everybody hugs each other, and everybody. There wasn't this idea of, oh, if I'm leaning on this guy's, I'm a guy and I'm leaning on this other guy, then that must mean I'm gay. Or if you see that, then you're making it very uncomfortable. And but yeah, yes, that is a theory out there. But it's just they don't have, we're very Western, and we're like, don't touch me, don't touch me, don't touch me. We have some people that are not, but I remember my niece, who is still this way, and the first time my sister handed her to me, she's walking away and she says, "Don't expect her to hug you." And I take her and I'm just so excited to hold her. And she's doing this the whole time and she won't let me hold her. And her arms are down and everything. And it's just a cultural thing. It's just a cultural thing. It wouldn't have seemed weird at all to them. Yes, Jacob, you've had your hand up for a very long time.
I was going to ask you, so did Peter ask John to ask to leave? Then probably no.
Hold on, wait, that one?
Yes, but not if he's not
John to ask him.
only if John told him, and he was not. I don't think he was close enough for that. We don't know where everybody was sitting. I guess Da Vinci probably did, and they wouldn't have been all on one side.
Until number 26.
Okay, I'm gonna let Jared go, and then I'll come back to you.
I was just gonna add that I think there's like an account of Jesus like not in our
Yeah, there's stories like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no. My grandpa, because I was telling my grandpa that we were in class one time, and he went off because he thought I was telling him that Mary was like a side chick of Jesus, and my grandpa went off, and he was like, "That is not true." And I was like, "That's not what I was telling you."
So,
yeah.
I think I know the book you're talking about. I can't remember the title right now. I did read it. It's but it's a novel anyway. It's a novel.
Is it
it's
really?
Not. Yes. It supports certain doctrines about Jesus that are not Christian doctrines. But it's a novel. It's not even a true story.
like they just
I'll look that up. I don't know that one. I don't know that one. Okay, we gotta hurry up and do this because the bell's about to ring. The events seem to show plainly the Jewish one. Did I just read this? Did I just read that one?
Yeah.
That's what we did. Okay. I thought we were still on that one. Okay. If you were Peter, how would you have felt when you heard Jesus predict that you would die? And probably I couldn't do that. Yes. Indignant, probably. Yeah, that could be part of it too. Yes. Embarrassed.
This face right here.
In front of everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. The shocked face. Me? Yeah. Okay, all good answers. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excuse me.